actually ended up talking about stuff that probably would have gotten me in trouble. But I was going to get back into the terms of service documentation. They sent me a message back that said essentially this. It said, let's see. I wanted to let you know that I have assigned your message to our level 2 support team. They are experts in handling inquiries like yours and will be responding here within next 1 to 3 days. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding. Please note we may take a bit longer to get back to you on public holidays and holiday seasons such as Easter or Christmas. Rest assured we do our best to respond as soon as possible. John Apostle. So they use a Christian first name and something close to apostle in the second name to make me feel bad because I think they know that I'm Christian or that I am close to Christian. I'm not, I don't consider myself to be the best Christian or a good Christian at that. I don't even read the Bible much or at all. I used to. And so I remember a lot of the stuff from the Bible. And the reason why is because everything that I read in the Bible, I take it to another level. I get to be really critical on the things, and it can affect both me negatively as well as the people I talk to. So I just kind of like leave it at that, and if there's any word that comes to me by God or the Holy Spirit or whatever, I let it be through experience, because that's kind of how they're communicating to you. It's my belief that all the word is not in the Bible, that some of the word is outside the Bible. It comes through life experiences. When you get slapped on the wrist or when things don't work out. It's if you think about it in past tense, you realize that it was for your own good. And people tend to blame God for a lot of stuff because at the center of it, either praise or blame, it might end up being really just about having control over the metaphysical, which is pretty much all worship and appeasing gods and all that stuff has to do with, is we lack the capacity to control things that are out of our control. And how we do that is through cathartic reasons, like going to Zozobra and burning effigies of old man bad Zozobra, which causes all of our troubles. So we scapegoat all of our troubles into an effigy, and or in order to worship God, we create a golden calf when we worship the golden calf rather than worshiping God. And we think that by worshiping the golden calf, we're worshiping the golden calf God or whatever. And it's really ignorance. It's on a different level, it's that you're trying to appease God. You're trying to manipulate God. It's really what it's not praise for what exists. It's praise in hopes that catastrophes don't occur, or it's praise for where you're at. It's a celebration. It can lead to other things that are completely not aligned in any logical way with a super being that creates people or creates stuff. And there are examples of all over the world in all the ways that God could have made us that would have been unfavorable, such as when procreating a praying mantis, the female praying mantis ends up eating the male's head. Of course, the male gets dopamine out the wazoo in order to take out this, to carry out this method. And there are things similar to that, like in fig wasps, when I think this is fig wasps, when they're born, the males seek out the females, or no, the females seek out the males and eat them in order to survive, or something like that, or the males become food to predators so that the females can escape. And the one of those is covered in pollen, which is the reason why they end up inside the fig. So if you eat a fig, you're actually eating insects. The the inside of the fig is probably got fig wasp larvae in it or something. So it's probably the reason why they don't sell a whole lot of figs in America. But all that aside, I guess I just told you what they sent me back. I'll say it again. It said, wanted to tell you we'll get your message to a level 2 support team. I bet anything a million, and these guys are in Australia, or they're not. They're in India and they're using Australia as a front, which is likely it. They just don't want to have the service in India, because then people are going to hold it against them. I mean, who really wants to get internet services from India? They would rather get it from Australia, so they use it as a front. And who I'm really talking to there is Indian service personnel, and they've got access to tons and tons of stuff about. See, they use the websites. If you ever hear them referencing the website in order to handle public relations, then you know they're from India, or they're from some sort of service, secondary contracted service to interact with the public. And the best way to deal with that, even though it might be unchristianly, is to talk really negative and say, "Oh, I know you guys are just Indians that are getting access to a website, and Trump's going to fix this thing. You can present yourself as the most toxic individual, and they'll have no incentive to carry through with their public relations with you, because they don't want to deal with you. They don't want to hear any more of it, and they won't hang up on you because they don't want the people they work for from losing customers." And I've done this many times, and it tends to work. They will take the call and send it out to the real team that should answer the call, but don't want to be inundated by all of the many people that contact them. They don't want to be bogged down with people who need to have their need services, or they don't want to cause their people they work for from having their services. But it's a way of avoiding unnecessary public relations calls when people need a solution to a problem, or they want to be a catch-all for the stuff that they don't really want to deal with. But if you get to be an irate customer, they don't want to deal with that, because that could affect them negatively. So they'll pass the call on to the real American, or the real representatives of the company. And so they don't consider what I'm talking to them about as being important to them. So I've told them, not soon enough. You're not quick enough. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish a video live about your services, and the fact that you didn't pass me through your to your tech team or whoever it is that's supposed to be servicing the irate customers such as myself, um, you're going to not benefit from it because I'm going to go ahead and tell people about your service in a light that's just not benefiting you. I don't mind because I'm a paying member, and you're supposed to hold your consumers above your creditors in importance. If you think that your creditors really care about you, if you're losing them money, they're going to drop you as stock. They're going to get out as quick as possible, and you're going to be in a heck of a lot of debt, which they probably already are. So this is what ChatGPT gave to me as differences in their terms of service. So I just copy and pasted the entire terms of service for Leonardo.ai, passed it to ChatGPT, and said, "What's different here? What's out of the ordinary?" So, what stands out is unusual. The clause, why it's a little different from the average SaaSTOS. Paid subscribers automatically own the IP in everything they create. Free tier users automatically assign all IP in their outputs to Leonardo.ai. That Stark, you built it, but we own it rule for free users is rarer. Most services either give everyone at least a broad license, which means anybody can use it, or leave ownership with the user. Paid users can flag content private. The company promised not to train models on private content and will only use it to run the service. Public content, however, grants Leonardo.ai perpetual transferable license to use it for any commercial purpose, including model training. The opt-in privacy toggle and explicit no training promise on private data are more transparent than many AI platforms. You can pause a paid plan for up to 3 months each subscription period with no fees and no access. Few SaaS tools formalize a pause option. Interest. Reserve Bank of Australia can cash rate of 2% PA compounded monthly, tying late payment interest to the central bank's policy rate is unusual wording. So if you fail to pay your bill or something like that, then they're going to apply a 2% penalty. They give 30 days notice of TOS, 30 days of notice of TOS changes, and if TOS changes, let you cancel mid-period with prorated refund. Many services either apply changes immediately or offer no refund. So this is something they do that's positive. Automatic deletion with loss of all creations after a year of no logins is stricter than most creative platforms. The company openly warns about deep fakes and misinformation and biases, and disclaims liability for any error in generated content. So if for some reason you use a prompt and you get child porn, then they're not liable for it. Many AI tools have shorter or vaguer disclaimers. If you're on a free tier and their total liability to you is capped at AU $1,000. A fixed dollar cap that applies only to non-paying users is uncommon. So they're trying to keep themselves from being litigated from if say somebody in India uses a uh, if somebody from India uses their service to make some images and it generates shocking content to the Indian culture, they might get sued by India, but they can never be sued for more than 1,000 Aussie money, AU. Um, a fixed dollar cap that only applies to non-paying users is uncommon. A full set of Apple App Store third party beneficiary clauses isn't unusual for a mobile app, but most web first platforms omit it entirely. Australian users must meditate, must mediate. Everyone else must arbitrate in Sydney under ACICA rules, splitting the dispute resolution mechanism by customer location is fairly rare. Um, where is Leonardo.ai based? All clues point to Australia, specifically the state of New South Wales. The company name is Leonardo Interactive Pty Ltd. The Pty Ltd structure and ACN Australian company number are uniquely Australian. Late payment interest references the Reserve Bank of Australia. Consumer law paragraphs cite the Australian Consumer Law and Competition and Consumer Act 2010. Um, Governing law clause 15.4 puts jurisdiction in New South Wales courts, and arbitration for non-Australian customers is in Sydney. So Leonardo.ai is a Australian company incorporated under Australian law and headquartered legally in New South Wales. No, the only big thing is that if you're a free user, they can use your content to train their AI. And as I pointed out, I think I pointed out that if the content is not in English, because I think they're oh I was gonna bring that up. Let me bring that up. It's the it's what their procedure is for. Let me see if I can bring that up. It's the procedure. Okay. Leonardo. Okay, this is what he said. The prompt itself may be blocked because of specific word context, as they are deemed sensitive. Inclusion of a famous person's name or brand. Number one. Words that equate with violence or that may illustrate physical harm. Number 3, in general, child, girl, boy, baby, violence, nudity, celebrity, trademark. Those are the words that they, um, so, or anything related to. It is not the word bikini per se. It could be the combination of words or phrase that triggered the filter. As an example, I was able to create this with the word bikini in the prompt. Yeah, let's see what he said. No, he didn't. He said super realistic blonde girl in a bikini. Then their automatic prompt writer said a super realistic blonde in a bikini. Make her beautiful, beautiful blonde hair, cute smile at the beach. And it shows her from the bikini up. Um, I've done bikini and it's pushed back on me. So it really depends upon the context. If you say anything, if you mention that she has big breasts, they don't allow that. So you see, a woman with big breasts, if you even mention breast, it won't let you do it. And so you can't even create the kind of content you want. You can't even say a Pokemon eating a peanut or eating a ant because it invokes violence, something eating another thing. You have to be careful. I was trying to create a blancmange, which is a dessert in England or in Britain. Blancmange eating Trump. So even a dessert item can't eat Trump in Australia, and it's because they're afraid of a lawsuit. The weakest people in the world live in Australia. I want that to be known. The weakest people live in this particular province of Australia because these guys are uh, acting as ambassadors to their country. They have proven to me that they're weak. They're prudes. Um, they take advantage of free users and train their AI to be biased to certain words. If you're a free user of Leonardo.ai, if you really want to stick it to them because they own your a copyright on your content, rate up all the really bad images so it's not aesthetically pleasing. And I mean, eventually it's going to have negative um, consequences on their organization when somebody from some country where the culture is sensitive is going to come out of the woodwork and slap them down, and it will have infamy. It will have the wrong kind of um, message about them. If I had infamy, it wouldn't affect me as much as it would their business. And so it probably would be in my best interest not to ever mention them. They do have a good service um, when it's not moderating your prompt. So as a commercial user, you would be better off not using their service. I will suggest a better service. Sogni, as a Mac user, offers a really good service. You can use their AI unmoderated on your personal computer. They will moderate content that you send to their user supported um, services. What they do is that they give you three options. You can have it done on your computer, the computation done on your computer. You can trade there's like a special credit system. You can trade your credits with other users' credits when their computers are used to render out your images. And so, but at a discount from the main servers, which you pay more for, and it still is going to take your credits. If you want to make credits, then you offer your machine up for other users to use, and you make credits off of that. So you can be a free user. And I don't think I'll have to go and look through their terms of service to see what uh, how they deal with their um, free users content. Um, I think I should do that for every AI organization. Just go through, get ChatGPT to look at their terms of service, and then I'll just talk about it. And anybody who wants to pursue them legally, have at it. I'm not doing anything illegal by providing the terms of service information. Um, I can have my opinions about them, but they're my opinions. It doesn't mean it's the truth. Just as Fox News can have opinions about liberals in their panels. It's just opinions, but they'll say, some people say, is a phrase that they use. According to a documentary called Out Fox, they use this phrase to make information sound legitimate whenever it's just masked, masked, masked opinion. And they use it a lot. So they say, some people say, blah, and then you assume that some people are saying that, but it's really just their opinion. So instead of saying, it's my opinion that this, they say, some people say. That's what they've been told by their organization to say. And every day they get a memo from high up about how they're going to spin the stories that day, so that it's more favorable to the worldview of those that watch their content, which is conservatives and Christians and whatnot. They're going to pander to those people because they value what they do is they pander to this audience. That audience looks to them um, to cover topics that make them feel good about themselves, because Fox is not going to share information that makes their consumers feel bad. And even if they had it, they wouldn't provide it. Um, they're only going to provide content that makes their users. So they're going to get liberals who are weak and set them up like straw men, beat them down, and it makes their viewership. It justifies their viewership, who will then go tell their friends all the things that Fox has said that's in support of their views. And then if their friend is a strong liberal, they'll point out, and then they'll just end up going, but it'll come up. It will really bite them in the ass, which is perfectly fine, because um, positive rebuke, or just rebuke at all, is the way you're supposed to deal with things as a Christian. Um, you're supposed to respond to rebuke with respect, especially if they have a point. And you can contradict, or I mean, you can uh, come up with a contrary view, and if it's got something solid behind it that is logical, then it's going to be helpful to the party that you've got to rebuke. Heckling is not rebuke. Saying you're stupid. It doesn't tell them why you think they're stupid. Um, so they are given unsubstantiated um, criticisms. I've done that. I've done that recently when I was talking about Leonardo.ai, that I believe that the people that pick up the phone or talk to you in messages on weekends is going to be somebody from India that serves thousands of clients. And when you come up on their service, they give you a canned response. And if they need to consult with anything, they're consulting with the website. That's as much as they're ever going to do. And if you get irate and take them to the lawn, you, you take them to the ballpark and beat them over the head with all sorts of crap that they don't want to hear, they're not going to shut the phone on you. They're going to contact the real organization because they risk losing you as a customer. I did this with uh, the service of our modem, and they sent us a message that said we could get a $15 discount and uh, uh, build a 1 gigabit line, or it was like a certain discount. It was like $10 discount on our service um, premium. If we contact them, we could get 1 gigabit line, which was at the time 4 times the rate, for $10 discount. And the lady that I talked to was obviously from India, and she said, no, actually, you can only get a $5 discount. And that the reason for that is because the original person that we got our service plan from uh, had given us a $5 markdown. But we got a message in the mail that says we get a $10 markdown. And they were able to give me a $10 markdown. But how I got through to their service department, their real service department, is to start talking crap to the Indian that was servicing me, that doesn't know anything about their company, to be, I'm sure, is the truth. They've got a customer service, I think they're called CRMs, customer relations management systems. And when you call them on the phone, up comes all the information that there's the policy and all the ways they need to answer calls, and the access to the website in case they need to reference it for anything. And they answer the information. Um, in the future, those will be replaced by AI, by LLMs, and any amount of getting upset is not going to have any effect. But they're going to lose customers too, so maybe that won't happen. But I started talking about Trump, and so Trump's going to get rid of all this kind of stuff, and we won't be dealing with Indians anymore because they'll put tariffs on stuff. And right then there, I got a call and an answer from somebody at Frontier who um, who was like under the gun and was shivering, shaking, and you could tell. And she was like, "Oh no, we can offer you a deal." Blah blah. She was very nice and everything. Different from this lady in India that was like, "Oh, my boss doesn't let me do this." Blah 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 blah. I said, "You don't have a boss. You can't." I told her, I said, "Can you pass me over to somebody, to your boss?" And she said, "Oh, my boss is not available." I said, "You don't have a boss. You're just a marketing. You're just a part of a call system in India." And I started saying things like what I talk about, CRMs and stuff like that. And I'm sure she didn't want to hear it. And my mom was getting upset with me. And I said, "I'm sure they've dealt with this stuff before. They've got to have a very thick skin to deal with guys like me." And then I started talking about Trump, which I'm not a big deal with Trump, but I wanted to point out that the tariffs are going to have a negative effect on there and all this stuff and things that somebody at a telephone service representative is not going to want to hear. They're not going to want to hear that stuff. And they also hear that you're irate and that whatever they have to do is really not going to be effective in preventing you from getting upset. And so then they pass me over to the actual representative. That's what you do. You get upset, you get negative, you say a bunch of BS, anything, and it will get you past those people. And that's how Leonardo's dealing with me. They have this representative that sends me a canned email response and said, we're going to pass you over to our level 2 tier, which I'm betting anything a million. It's such a thin organization. They don't have more than 6 employees. It's going to be 5 to 10 employees, because anything more, they're losing money on this service as much as they're charging for their service, per month. I'm willing to bet that not very many of their customers are Maestro level like me, and so they have to be more attentive to me, and I can get upset and I can beat crap over their heads. I can get as mean as possible, and they have to respond to me. And it's just public relations a good bit of the way. If they're not responding to their customers, their credits are going to respond to their customers, their creditors. And I'll go to their creditors and say, these guys are not holding you, they're not accountable to you. They don't have a fiduciary responsibility to you, because they're pissing off their customers and they're losing me as a customer, which is losing you money, because they're not giving their service is not treating me well. And I'm going to point out all the stuff that they're doing to make their service better. The only proprietary ability they have is how they train their model using free users. And if I tell all the free users of what they're doing and where they can get more free service, such as at Hugging Face, and I inform them and they find my stuff on YouTube, I'm going to get benefit from it, and they're going to lose customers over it because they're treating me like crap. And how they're treating me like crap, they are moderating all my prompts, just like Pubehead David Holtz at Midjourney does, and his free user base treat him like he's God. I tell you no lie. I went over there and I was in their group, and I thought it was a positive thing for me to say David Holtz is the president of Midjourney, as if to say this is where you need to go to find out more about the service. And his leading moderator starts bad mouthing me and saying, why did you even say that? He was in the same room. You could have pissed him off. And you pissed me off because I'm a paying customer and you're treating me like shit. And then eventually they found some prompts where I was saying stuff against their policy. Their AI or something picked it up, and they moderate their content to the point that if you even use something that's against their policy, they will ban your account. I had a year subscription to Midjourney, $600 subscription. Actually, it was like $450. And after 2 months, they banned my account based upon what I put in my prompt. I was just testing it to see what it could do. But they prevented me, and they banned my account, and I will never say a good thing about them as long as I live. I will take it to the grave. And it's the corporation that I'm against. I'm going to badmouth David Holtz, Pubehead David Holtz, because he's got curly hair. And I think that's actually the reason why Kinko's is called Kinko's, is that the head of the company had curly hair. This is in the documentary by Jamie Johnson, an heir to the Johnson and Johnson company, or the family Johnson and Johnson, and he made a documentary, and he went and interviewed the head president, the founder of Kinko's, and said the reason why it's called Kinko's is because he had this kinky hair. He said some people would call him pube head. He was called pube head whenever he was younger, and so he just took his his what people called him, that it was kind of to prove to him that, look, I'm a successful, and I'll still take on your opinion of me, and you know very humble guy, nice guy. And so I'm actually calling him something that the Kinko's president um, named his company after. Most companies like Wachovia uh, named themselves Wachovia because they're going to walk over you. That's the reason why their name is Wachovia. It's not a representative of some place. It's because they're going to walk over you. It's a Bostonian, you know, you can hear the accent in it. It's we're going to walk over you. And my dad said that he came to that realization because he had opened up a policy with them, and they walked all over him. And so he never will do business with Wachovia again. And so some organizations are like that. They kind of give you a clue as to what they're going to do with you through their name. And Mid-Journey is probably such an example. It says your journey is going to be midway, and we're going to drop you and make money on you. So we're going to ban your account for whatever reason mid-journey, and we're going to. So that's them kind of telling you the way they're going to treat you as a customer, and you should hold that as the real meaning behind their name, even if it isn't. So the free users of Mid-Journey see David Holtz as a god. They worship him because he gave them certain capacity to express themselves, you know. And for his paying users, he banned me, and he invades my privacy. All the AI companies invade your privacy. They don't want to be slapped with a lawsuit, which means that they're weak. They don't have any money. They don't have a legal team. They're afraid of a lawsuit. They're gluttons for punishment. If Microsoft ever comes around and wants to own all the AI services, they can do it because they got the monetary clout and everything. They can go around and sue every single one of them and free up, pretty much ruin the entire commercial AI industry, and then leave it for themselves to serve their user base. And I encourage them to do so. But a lot of it's open source, so they're not really going to get far with it. But Leonardo.ai doesn't have any proprietary ability. A lot of the stuff that they're providing is already out there. In fact, their real-time rendering service that they've got is something that they're licensing out from another company. So they really don't have any proprietary technology. All they got is probably based in India anyhow, and they're using Australia as a front. And and as much as India calls up our senior citizens and tries to suck money out of them by telling them that they got viruses on their iPads, which is is complete crap. If you ever get that on your iPad or your Mac, that there's a virus on your machine, it's through the web browser that you're getting this BS. And the best way to deal with it is to get some sort of something like Malware Bytes or something, which I had to get. that I have to even get that is ludicrous. That Apple should be dealing with that stuff themselves. That I get that, and they have their kernel in open source. You know, that anything can get thrown into my browser. It's like if there's a window open and they can send pop-ups to my screen, you know, why am I getting pop-ups? Why not those things within the context of the window like Blender does? That was the reason why Ton didn't create a Windows system, is because he observed that the websites were doing their entire interface within inside the web browsers, you know. Anyhow, so Leonardo.ai, uh, I will continue to use your service as much as I see fit. I will probably not be a customer for long, but you really don't have any wherewithal to sue me for me saying the things that I'm saying about your service, because I don't think your terms of service cover what I'm saying about your service. I'm a paying customer. I have the right to have an opinion about your service, even if it's wrong. And you have the right to ban me from the service, which will make it even worse, because I am really good at evangelism. On the side of evangelism is I'm really good at public relations, and negative or positive. And I don't have any problems with doing it. God's not going to get in the way of me doing this correctly or not. God's going to let me do it. And it's my opinion. And I have freedom of expression. I have freedom to put myself at risk. You know, that's what a lot of the Christianity stuff is about, is trying to prevent the followers from getting into trouble. So as a kind of a legal psychological counsel is to follow these rules that are going to keep them, that are going to give them a long life. So being a being that I've got diabetes, I don't have much hope of living much longer. And it's a stress reliever for me to slap down on services that I pay into that are not servicing me positively. And it's well known that it's a stress reliever to beat up on other people. As long as but in the Christian faith, it's best that you don't beat up on people physically, but rebuke them is a different matter. And it's really bad that you're a paying customer and they're invading your privacy. They're limiting what you can prompt to their engine, even whenever it's not something totally negative. It's because they have no faith. They have fear and no faith, and just the fact that they do this is proof that they're weak, and somebody like Microsoft should come along and own them. It would not take Microsoft much to do that. Their competitors who are richer, like UDIO, could own them. I'm willing to bet that they really don't have much capital to deal with such issues, and their service is going to do much better in the hands of their competitors. Their creditors, it's in their best interest of their creditors to get rid of their management, to kick them out, fire them, let them go somewhere else to use their techniques of leveraging free users, utilizing people's reasoning abilities to improve their um, AI model. If you're an artist and you're threatened by AI, I advise you to attack Leonardo.ai legally, and go and be a free user, and then find something really shocking that's produced by a prompt, and the fact that their engine didn't keep you from producing it. They say that they're not liable to that stuff, but I believe they can't enforce that. I had a legal I had a legal partner whenever I was um, in Manhattan, and he would look at my non-compete agreements and stuff like that, and he would say, "This is unenforceable. This is unenforceable. That is important, but this is unenforceable." And that stuff exists in these legalese. So there's stuff that they're hoping you won't pin on them, and then there's stuff that they can't deal with. Um, Anything the AI produces, um, they're not liable for, but anything um, that they're because they're pre-processing the text, they should have it in their preprocessor to catch anything their AI might actually display, so that they've put it in their legalese that they're not responsible for things that your prompts produce. They shouldn't even have a system in place to um, to moderate. And if they've got a system in place to moderate, it isn't to protect them from those lawsuits. It's that in their terms of service, the stuff that they put in there is unenforceable. And they're just putting up a different layer of stuff to protect them from being litigated. And so it's likely that it's unenforceable because it's their model that's producing the content. It's within their power to train their model on content that's going to produce favorable results. They could have their model go out and research the net to find out what is reasonable and what's not reasonable for every language um, that their queries, that the prompts might use, and also to verify with each language and culture that they're not going to produce shocking content. They can't they can't possibly protect people from that. So why even put it in their terms of service agreement that it isn't their responsibility what the prompt produces and then turn around try to filter out the prompts. They're afraid that the AI they're afraid of being held accountable to the system they have in place that's generating content from prompts. They just don't want people um, hauling them to court. And, you know, I have nothing to fear of somebody from Australia. They're not abiding by our law, I'm sure. I'm in Texas, and Texas is a very conservative state. And they might have reason to be negative to me, but they've got a lot of Christians, and I can talk to the Christians about some of the negative things about AI, like the fact that AI clones the neuron that goes into a lot of biological stuff. It's just like cloning sheep. So if you're concerned about the genetics of sheep and people manipulating them, then AI is no different. And you could stop the production of AI companies in Christian states just by having Christians get all in arms about AI. And there are a lot of them that are doing it, I'm sure. So um, you're not protected. You really are not protected. And I am not responsible because I'm just exploiting what your systems can do. I'm finding it fun. I'm not making money on it because everything I've got goes into public domain. I see that as a great positive because it takes RIAA out of the loop. RIAA can't go to me and say, well, you're producing content that's of some artist. I said, well, maybe I've recognized it of that artist, but we don't know for sure that it's really them or if it's a mix of artists. But the AI is trained on commercial music. What else is it going to be trained on in order to make music? And then I can point out that the RIAA is doing things that are criminal against their own artists. We can bring that up to the table, and it would be much more incriminating against them than anything that I'm doing. And I've already put up a song about just the lunacy and the idiocy of the big three about what AI is doing. So I've been in defense of AI, and I'm also kind of free to let AI go by the wayside, you know. So either way, if people decide that we shouldn't be using AI, all for it. We've survived without it. We've survived with it. I'm not going to get up on all in arms on it because I can see that it's negative, and we don't have anything to really fear. You remember that part of the Bible that says, "Though I walk through the valley of death, I shall fear no evil." That's basically a faith statement. Do you have faith in God? If you do, then you're not going to fear any evil. Certainly not AI. But there are going to be weaker Christians that are going to go after the AI because it's affecting their capacity to make art that they think they're selling and they're not selling. Because, in this day and age, who actually buys art? Who actually buys songs? Every musician knows that it's merchandise that people buy. They don't buy songs because songs aren't, they don't hold the capital that they used to. They don't hold value. You buy a song, it's basically like throwing it away. But if you buy merchandise, it can be resold, so it's a viable form of commerce. You can buy it, you can sell it to your customers, and they're going to want to show to their friends that they're in support. It's good public relations too. So merchandise means more than the it's the record industry that it's more important to them that you don't copy the music, because then they can't make money off of your music. Off of their music. It isn't their music anyhow. It's their artist music, and they're predatory lenders to those musicians because they give them money and then they demand it later with interest on top of the money they gave to the musicians. The musicians think that by being involved with the record industry, they're going to it's going to permit them to be millionaires, and they'll survive. They'll have all sorts of assets, and they won't have to go back to being poor again. And it's completely not the case. It's when you get involved with the record industry, it's almost like taking out a student loan. They're going to take advantage of your assumptions to because they don't make money on music anymore. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to take advantage of any relationship that they come in contact with. They're going to game the system, and so it's in your best interest just to busk, because that's all you can do. And the internet there's no way to keep people from cloning content and passing around the internet. Some people could say it's stealing, but it's not really taking the possession of the music or whatever out of somebody else's possession, which is stealing. What it is it's somebody taking a picture or taking is making a copy of the content, and they're going around and showing their friends, and those people might not have ever paid for the content in the first place. They are benefiting from the content, but the RIAA and ASCAP and all those guys will take advantage of the secondary sound people get from a TV if they're videotaping something from TV and they put it on YouTube. Those guys will go and jump on them for having had part of, and then they lose part of their sound, and the part of sound that they own they don't even get to use because they you should have filtered out the content they use. And so they're such jerks. they're they're crazy fucking, you know, they're just jerky about that kind of stuff. It's, you know, I don't blame anyone from wanting to copy and distribute. The distribute engine end of it you shouldn't do, but the copying of it they can't keep you from copying it. Just as they can't prevent you from making a mixtape. You know, copying stuff illegally from torrents. Um, Sometimes what I often, if I do things with torrents to get stuff illegally, what I'm really doing is I'm sampling the content. I'm trying to find what stuff I'll spend money on and what stuff I won't, and I have to sample the content. That's what they should have done in the 80s, is they should have given out free CDs, which they could have done, that would demonstrate not the main popular content, but the alternate content of every musician, so we could see if they were one hit wonder or not, and then we'd go in and buy the CDs if we saw a value in it. You can't even in the what was it? I would go to, what was the name of the place I used to go and get look at CDs? It was it'll pop in my head. Hastings. I'd go to Hastings every Friday during my college days, and and this was something fun for me to do, is I'd go through their used collection and I would go reading through all of the production stuff on the back to determine if there was anybody I recognized, and I'd say, "Oh, this guy worked on this album," and then I'd buy that at $6 rather than going for the $16 CDs that, in my experience, would have only 2, 3 things on it worth listening to, and the rest of the crap wasn't. And you had no way of going to any CD that was on the shelf and listening to it. I guess you could go and ask the person at the front, but they're not going to want to do that for everything they got in their supply. And they could very well, at that time, have that stuff playing back through MP3s through their system, and you could review it and determine whether or not you wanted to buy the CD and take it home at a higher quality. Maybe they started doing that later. Maybe they do that now, but they weren't doing it in the 80s, and they weren't doing it in the 90s. And, you know, they could have put the CDs on a carousel system, and then when you request the CD you want to listen to, it would go through a carousel CD changer, which is really just something like a jukebox. Even if they had it on a jukebox where you could put a quarter in, that would have been a better approach to it, because then people could listen to their music inside the store, and it would be a way of advertising the favorite musicians they have. Also, you could see what was on that CD, so you could request any CD, any song on the CD, and play it for like a quarter or like 10 cents or whatever, and Hastings would still be getting money. But they didn't do any such thing, and nor did any other store. And that's the reason why in the 90s much the music sucked, is because it was 78 minutes they had to fill. It's like a double record set, and every musician had to fill all that time, because that would make that would increase the chance that somebody was going to buy that CD for $16 a hit, whereas LPs were selling for $8 a hit. Cassettes were somewhere in that area. So it was in best interest to get a cassette or an LP if you couldn't afford the CD. But what people ended up doing was getting the CD and then copying it to cassette tapes and giving it to all their friends. and the music companies were kind of against that happening at that time. You probably recall a certain show on What's Happening where the Doobie Brothers. It was made a big deal that the Doobie Brothers tried to get the kids to prevent bootleggers from recording the show on their reel to reels or cassettes or whatever. And so they were trying to maintain that there wouldn't be any, you know. And so that was an example of the record companies using Doobie Brothers to protect the Doobie Brothers from people bootlegging. But the Grateful Dead had no problem with that, and the Doobie Brothers get all upset about it. Doobie Brothers, I love you guys, but you're making yourself look like a bunch of fucktards by letting Grateful Dead bootleg and letting the they knew they couldn't enforce that, and you guys couldn't enforce that. And I made some content that's got you in it, and I doubt that that skunk is going to give a crap about what goes on to you guys, because it's just John McPhee, and I doubt Michael McDonald will ever go and play with you. It's just a handful of you guys now, and how much you charge for your shows is probably out the wazoo, like $500 a head, and to get it into a special show. I like the Doobie Brothers. I've never been to a concert. I don't see much value in going to concerts because it's not going to be the complete stereo experience. The reason why people who go to the concerts is because they think people give a damn about them having been to a concert. It's kind of like, oh, you have to go to a concert, you pay the amount of money. But it's like, there it is. That's the reason why you went to the concert. It's not to see the musicians or listen to the music. It was to have that specialness of being associated as a better fan than anybody else because you went to their concert, and there's nothing that they're going to say to you contrary to that, because you supported them a bit more than any other fan. But the guys like me who's only been to a few concerts, I've only been to a Thomas Dolby concert and a Harry Connick Jr. concert, and it was only because they were free that I went to them. I never would have been organized enough to actually go and get a ticket from Ticketmaster or whatever. And I know I would be put somewhere in the back with some beer drinker that would throw his beer on me. And, there's all sorts of bad crap that goes on in those concerts. And you have a crowd of 10,000, they're paying 100, some odd dollars, and it's patting the back on these musicians that aren't creating new content because they're not under the gun to produce good content anymore. They've proven themselves. They no longer have friends and family around them are still living that they would try to create good content for. Keep accountable to being good musicians. Now it's their fan base, and what are they really playing music for, because they don't have the life insurance policy that they thought they had whenever they got involved with all that stuff. Now they have to be on stage. They have to charge like the wazoo for their tickets. And their friends who were kind of one-hit wonders who just wasn't as popular are laughing at them because they got into well-paying positions as doctors. That's what happened to one of the guys that was in the motels. He became a doctor, and he said that it was best that band, he was no longer in that band because he pursued a position, a career that was going to pay him better than the girl who took over the band. It actually kicked everybody out. It was actually the music company that did that, but she's the only one pushing forward that band, and it's a task. It's her life insurance policy that she's got. I saw it in a news article. That's the reason why I know about it. And so forever, she's like any of these guys at these Comic-Con type joints where all these, you know, actors of some obscure TV show are going to show up and hope that somebody comes by and then they can be a representative of the TV show or of all the other actors that, you know, collect some money together and sell the memorabilia because it's their only means of life insurance these days. And it makes them feel good, you know, to have somebody there that recognizes them in their TV show and have good things to say about them, or want to find out about their content so they can get royalties on it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the idea that being a popular musician is going to permit you to be complacent at a certain age, and that you're going to make a lot of money and live richly. That was only true in the 70s for the short time that people were getting royalties for LPs, because in the 70s, the people that the consumer replayable content, if you think about it, the only replayable consumer content was books and LPs and doodle posters. We'd sit on the floor and do our doodle poster while we're listening to an Elton John song. And I mean, consumer not replayable. Actually, the doodle poster is a replayable content. The book is, and the LP is. The tapes are, CDs are, but the thing is, they didn't come until the 80s. The Walkmans from the late 70s. In the 70s, you had 8-tracks, which would reset at the end of 15 minutes to the next 2 tracks. The reason why I call it 8 tracks is because there was 8, to have a stereo track, you need 2 tracks, left and right. And so one stereo, click, after 15 minutes, another set of stereo sound, click, click, click. So you can have an hour's worth of music on that thing, which is twice as much as you had an LP, but more often they were just 45-minute 8 tracks. They usually didn't have that much in them. And I had an 8-track, and I can remember just how stupid it was to hear a song and then at some point they fade off, click, and then it fades back into the song. It's like, how cheap can you be? And that was the Cars. They did that on theirs. Six did it. I mean, all of them musicians did it. And the only reason why the 8-track was special is because you could have an 8-track player in your car. And that was before they had cassette players, but the 8-track was higher quality than cassette. And I think up to that point, cassettes, just because the sheer size of them were dismal and rural. But quality wasn't all that great on cassettes. And then when they came up with boomboxes, the quality got to be better. This group was one of my favorite groups in the 70s, but I was young, I didn't really know any better. I didn't know about the Beatles. My first LP was Kiss. It was Rock and Roll Over. And it was because the album cover. That's what kids buy albums for at a young age. It has nothing to do with the band or the lyrics or anything. It has most to do with the that's inside. And so they had these big album covers. But what you'd be doing most of the time is that you'd be playing the LP and looking at the album cover, looking at the back, looking at the liner notes, and then you might end up just throwing the album cover because it was a little bit like a frisbee. And if the LP really pissed you off, if it wasn't all that great, you ended up using it like a frisbee, and then you would go out and stomp on it and cut a million pieces and throw it in the trash. Or you sometimes you leave it in the car and it get all warped, and then you go and play it on the record player just to hear all the distortion of the sound. But I remember records. There were pictures of me at 9 years old on the floor in our home with two speakers on either ends of my heads, just laying down listening to something like Boston. And, my mom would say, "Oh, you're going to ruin your hearing." I'm like, "Nah." Even now, I listen to stuff loud. The iPhone will tell me you're ruining your hearing. You need to turn it down. I'm like, "No, I'm already diabetic. What the fuck?" You know? So, yeah. I just got noticed that my brother's got an aggressive form of lymphoma, and so things are going to be a little bit harder now because I have to think of what I'm going to do to make him feel a little bit better, and I have to duck a lot of talk because my mom holds me responsible to that. I've got your brother. I'm dealing with all the bad things that's going on with that, and you know, I didn't really have much good relations with him because it is more recent is that yeah, I just I we had better relations when I was younger, but they kind of soured, and now I have to kind of. It isn't that I have to, but as a result of what's happening now, I'm spending a lot of time thinking about things that we used to do and find fun. You know, dwell on the things that were positive rather than the things that you deal with as adults that tend to sour you against each other. And one thing that I remembered at this time of year, we would be into the firework. We'd go into the firework um, books and determine what fireworks we're going to buy, so that when July 4th comes around, we got something to light out on the street. So we'd be going, okay, let's get so many gardens. We'll get a garden in spring. We'll get so many of these jumping jacks. We'd get some jumping jacks and some ground bloom flowers, which are basically jumping jacks with three colors rather than two. Jumping jacks last a very short amount of time, but if you put them in the crevice of the seat of your sidewalk with the part that makes them move around, the little rocket fuel thing, you stick them in the crevice of the sidewalk, they'll go and they'll land on somebody's roof, which is what you'd hope not happen. And the roofs in our neighborhood were all flat. So if it landed on somebody's neighborhood, they had tar up there, it could catch the roof on fire. So we were like, once that happened, it was like, okay, we got to stop now because this could lead to somebody's house catching on fire. And also, if as anybody knows, if it doesn't rain the day before the 4th of July, you just can't You can't light fireworks. In Texas, you can't light fireworks unless you do it out in some place, like in a field somewhere, where it's not going to catch fire. And there are certain places you can go to where they'll let you do that, you know. But if you go on the outskirts of any town in Texas, they're selling all the craziest fireworks you can imagine. You know, they're probably even selling M80s and cherry bombs, and who knows. Those things should be illegal, by the way, because they're TNT. They're pretty close to explosives. But the thing we do is we get a whole bunch of lady fingers, big old a big old bunch of lady fingers, and we set fire of them out in the middle of the field, and it go, you know, and we're like, ah, you know, all this noise, and then we say, okay, get the black cats, we'll do the same thing. Set the black cat strings on fire, you know, and it would get really bad when our dog Ebony would go out and bothered by these firecrackers would go and eat one. We'd be like, no, Ebony, and we'd see her mouth as her go boom, and she would spit it out, and it was like, you know, poor old Ebony, you know. And so, you know, things like that would happen. Sometimes if we had any extra fireworks after, we'd stick them under we wouldn't throw them in the trash. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. We'd put them under a trash can and set them off, you know, because, you know, if your neighbors heard all the noise from it, and get the cops come down and say, guys, got to stop that. We get calls from the neighbors that you set off a bunch of firecrackers, so, you know. So one of the things to do is to put a whole bunch of firecrackers under a trash can, then stick like some stuff in there that would obviously get blown to crap in there. You might put some flowers in there. You might put a frog in there, you know, things that or some bugs. Put some bugs in there, you know, and it wouldn't hurt the frog, but it would. All the bugs would just. And then you go and check to see what of those bugs, which one missing in action. The missing in action group is like, oh no, they got hairy, and you know, you make stuff up, or you could put a little. You could use some of them on your Mr. Bill. That was what my brother would do. Is he was really into doing Mr. Bill films, and he put a firecracker in the neck of Mr. Bill, and he said, "Oh, Mr. Bill! Oh, here comes Bruno or something," and he says, "I Mr. No, don't do that! No! Oh, Pokey!" Bruce. You know, and of course you watch them. And SNL did us a great service to have the Mr. Bill shows. It showed something that anybody could do. It was a DIY kind of cartoon content. All you had to do is take some Play-Doh and make something that looks like Mr. Bill, and then come up with this story and say, "Oh, Mr. Bill! Oh, hello, Mr. Bill. I've got something here you might enjoy. It's a pizza." "Oh, yeah, I like pizza." It says, "Hey, we bought you a special pizza. It's a 12-inch. Here, Mr. Bill." "Oh, don't put it on it." "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bill. We didn't expect you to actually flatten out over that, you know." And so stuff like that. Or you put Mr. Bill on the pizza when it was hot, and he's like, "Oh, don't do that. I feel like a lot of..." "Oh, sorry, Mr. Bill," and you put him in the microwave oven, you know. Things fun to do. So I think of things, you know, positive things. You don't want to think about the negative things or dwell on them. You don't want to remind other people about what's going on, because you don't know. And you don't know how long it's going to go, and, you know, he's not dead. He's dealing with something that's very hard to deal with. And if you ever visit, I mean, if I ever visit, I'm going to be thinking of positive things to talk about, like when we used to get fireworks and stuff that'll bring back good memories. There was a guy who survived it it's an instant death sentence. There was a guy that survived the same kind of cancer about 12 years. And, he said, enjoy every day. Enjoy the day and every day. That's what he said. He said, if on the down times, think of the next positive thing you're going to do, And just like Warren Zevon, whenever he had cancer, he said, enjoy every sandwich, Think of the next positive thing you can do. Enjoy every day. I'm not really doing that. I'm kind of got a death sentence with diabetes, but what I do every day is I walk a mile. There are no carbohydrates. This is peach mango green tea. I got those paleo sausage sticks they've been selling on YouTube. I might have gotten a subscription to it because they sent me a card with the stuff that I got that said, thank you for your subscription. You're going to get 20% off for life. And I do want to get some venison sticks from them. They have chicken sticks. Who's going to buy a chicken stick as much as chicken costs? Or a beef. I would rather buy a beef stick than chicken or pork stick, considering how much they cost. Unless they have, is really good. Then they got venison sticks, and then they said a little thing like venison is really good for tissue rebuilding and blah 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 blah. And what they're doing sounds pretty good for people. People who have immune problems with certain foods. I came to the realization the other day, I think, why there are so many children today that have so many allergies, food allergies, is that their parents protected them from or also avoided the same foods that they're allergic to. And so, because their immune system had never dealt with those allergies, they don't benefit from the immune system being able to handle things like peanuts and whatnot. And so you end up with a child that has like all of these food allergies because their parents avoided the foods, or I don't know, for whatever reason. That's my feeling. Because I don't have any food allergies, just milk. And growing up, I pretty much ate everything in the world. And I don't know if the reason why I don't have any food allergies has to do with eating everything in the world. But my parents didn't keep me from eating everything in the world. So I ate everything, and my mom doesn't even like some of the stuff that I eat. Like, I love sardines. She hates seafood. I love sardines. I love all seafood. And, I mean, I've eaten snails. I've eaten turtle. I've eaten shark's fin. That's of what I can remember, because I had someone took me to a all you can, or it wasn't all you can eat buffet. It was a special meats buffet in South Korea, and so I might have eaten dog for all I know. I don't know. I wouldn't be adverse to that. I'd eat birds. I can eat anything. I'm a carnivore out the wazoo. I haven't eaten bugs yet. Probably won't. But it was really funny the other day. I was watching somebody was eating something, and they said, "Oh, it tastes like cricket." And then their son was going, "Oh, yeah, it tastes like cricket." It says, "Oh, it doesn't?" I said, "Oh, yeah, it does taste like cricket." And I was like, they eat cricket." And yeah, in some parts of the world, some guy went to Thailand to go to the market there because evidently they eat a whole bunch of different kinds of insects. And this happens in Mexico. There are people there that'll serve you insects. And so there's nothing wrong with the insects. And there are parts of the Bible where I guess it was John the Baptist ate locust, which is an insect, Good. My dad calls it small chop. My dad passed away about 5 years ago, um, but he calls it. It's not 5 years ago. It's now a decade. But he called it small chop. Said, "Oh, you ate a bug. Oh, that's just small chop." Anyhow, I'm gonna go. I think this is enough. It's about an hour and a half. But remember, Leonardo.ai, they take advantage of their free users. They own their few free users' content. Then they use the content and the likes and stuff on their service, the public area, the gallery area. They use that to train their AI. Then they moderate all the prompts, even when you're buying into the service, because they don't want you producing content that might make it into the public service server, thus ruining public relations with their people. That's the real reason why they do it, is because they don't want to piss off their free users, because that's how they train their model. And I've been telling them what you should do is you should set this up into two different services, a public service and a private service. And you should permit those in the private service from producing public content. You should take away your moderation system for those who are using your private service. You need to pay into some liability insurance, and stop being so weak and faithless. Just because somebody's going to come along the way and won't believe your organization is big as you say you are, and they're going to either compete with you like Microsoft would. What Microsoft does is they set up a competitor to you that undersells you, and then they ruin your business that way, and they buy up your company because you're going to be so eager to pay off your creditors, or the creditors are going to sell it to them. But that's what they do. That's the reason why they're a very evil company, is because that's how they compete. And it's a dog eat dog world out there. That's the reason why a lot of programmers make free open source stuff, is so that the stuff they believe should exist will exist by them implementing it in open source, and that they hope to separate. They have to, if they work for somebody like Hewlett Packard, like Steve Wozniak did. He had to discuss with Hewlett Packard their policy on employees working on stuff in private, and went to them with their computer, and the Hewlett Packard permitted him to sell the Apple computer without having to hand over the computer as IP, have Hewlett Packard own the first computer, a personal computer, and they didn't see anything wrong with him. He forgot about it, and he just remembered, I work for Hewlett Packard, and it's in their policy that if I use any of their IP in my stuff, then they own my stuff. And so he had a discussion with them, and they gave him the green light, and so he was able to make money off of this computer that he just made. Um, that happens with people that are making open source freeware stuff. Is that they have to discuss with their company, otherwise their company may say, well, no, you can't do that because that's part of our IP. And uh, intellectual property, that's what IP stands for. Um, that's part of their intellectual property. And so you, um, yeah. So I'm going to cut it here. I want to work on some, music. I'm a Patreon member of Alex Ball, and he just did a thing on the TR-909. So I'm taking the sound from the TR-909 and using it as input to my Udio stuff to see if I can inspire Udio to create, say, some Depeche Mode type style sound. And I've also determined, MIDI files are cover tunes of stuff, and that shouldn't hold any kind of copyright. It does secondary copyright as covers of other stuff, but it shouldn't hold as much of a concern as copying a record or commercial content in audio form. It's the quality's not as good, so I don't know, but most of my stuff doesn't use audio samples as source for the content. I'm experimenting with it. I'm trying to see if there is any value in doing it at all. And I found that if I sing into a mic, it's just as useful as sending something else into it. It's actually better if the content you're sending through it has a sustain. If it's legato, if you do pizzicato stuff where it's like da, 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 it's going to have an effect on the rhythm of the song, but it won't have much of an effect on the chording and all that stuff. It will take different approaches to it, especially if it's just a drum pattern. But one of the problems with the Udio, with their AI, is that it when you give it content, it unless there's enough to it, it tends to produce very minimal amount of, and it may not even actually add a melody or a chording to it. So it's really an experimental thing. But they ask you every time, do you have permissions to use this? And you say, yes, I do. I bought the CD. And it should be enough permissions right there. If you bought the CD, you have permissions, just as long as you don't sell it off or don't try to copyright it. What they're really saying is they're saying, we don't want you using commercial music as a source to your to the music you produce, because we're afraid of getting sued for that. That's the reason why if you load in anything as a sample source for an audio tune, that you can't publish it on their public service, is because they don't want commercial music showing up inside the files, which does show up on the very first. If you use a commercial song, the sample shows up inside the track, the first track that is generated, because the sample is inside of that, and anything that's an offshoot of that track than is created by the engine, but they don't want music showing up in people's tracks, and so they don't permit you to actually publish it, but you can publish it via link, and people would still be able to use it. So um, I don't. I've experimented with it. That's all I'll say. I don't tend to do that. What I tend to do is find something that I can use, and I run it through it. Sometimes I'll use stuff off of Instagram, or I'll go through YouTube Shorts, and I'll just pick some random content that I'm pretty sure is not going to have anything associated with it, and I run it through. It never comes out the other end sounding anything like what you put into it. In fact, whenever I do a remix, I do it on the one level, which is completely different. What it acts as inspiration. That's really what I use it for, is to inspire the track. There have been times when I've wanted to use the original track, but when I want to do that, I usually ask for permission, and I'm trying to get Adam Ant's permission to use like the first 10 or 20 seconds of Ant music as inspiration for the Burundi beat, because Udio doesn't recognize the Burundi beat, so you can't do Adam Ant style music. I told him, if you want to create more music with the Burundi style, Udio can't understand this beat. It can't reproduce it. Adam Ant, you're completely safe, you know. And so, however, if you're Genesis, forget it. Peter Gabriel's voice, anytime you put a prompt in and it has progressive as part of the genre, it's going to pop up with Peter Gabriel is the first favorite voice. Then the next is going to be Phil Collins. Then you might hear Peter Gabriel with harmony sung by John Anderson of Yes. You might even, and I've got a case where it mixed the voice of Sting and Donald Fagen. So, like, at one point it sounds like Donald Fagen, but then it turns into Sting. That's common on Udio. It has a tendency. There's a point at which you realize it's using a voice, and then you go, oh, no, that's not what I started with. That's such and such. I have a song called Gasoline and Glory that at one point, when it talks about seeing St. Peter at the pearly gates or whatever, it starts singing in Neil Young's voice. It sounds like Neil Young, and then it stops sounding like Neil Young. That happens a lot with Udio. You don't know how much if you're using the version 1.0 model, it's going to likely happen to you. If you're using the 1.5 model, it might happen to you. I've done it. I've as a demonstration, have made a Prince tune where it really sounds like Prince, and that was on version 1.5. But I started with version 1.0. And I love version 1.0. If they get rid of 1.0, I'll stop using their service. Because I'll probably use a lesser license of there. I'll use like a apprentice level license. So long as they have the version 1.0, which is the one that lets you create era-specific music. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But it irks me no end whenever I hear somebody say, somebody copied my content. I have this stuff copyrighted. I'm making money on it. This guy stole it from me. Everybody, a good bit of the people in the video community just cringe whenever they hear that crap. because what it means is that there are people that are using the service just to make the content that sounds like a commercial artist, and then they turn around, copyright it, and throw it up on Spotify. You can't keep them from doing it, but it's like, what are you talking about? You didn't make this content. You're a producer as the same as any of us. We don't know what content it's going to up with, and we don't know who it's going to stomp on as a musician. But I make it known that this is the musician right here, because part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to advertise that musician to the general public, because there are some people that don't know about those musicians. So if they get to like my song, I'll say, if you want to hear more, this is the actual musician that I'm replicating, and the voice you hear in that is his voice. So if you hear my Robert Plant song, or Robert Palmer song, um, hey, Dream Weaver, and Dreamweaver is really a Roger. What is his name? It's not Roger. It's something like that. Um, it's not Moore. It's keep thinking it's Moore, but it's not like Dudley Moore. It is. Yeah, I can't recall his name. Right. Uh, it's like Roger White or Wright or something like that. Um, did Dreamweaver, and then I made a Robert Palmer tune with the same title, Dreamweaver. Let's see if I can sing it. Am I or am I just the sound of Dreamweaver? Spinning tales of gold. Da 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 da. La la la. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. It's getting to the point where my own songs are causing me to forget the music that I was inspired to create the songs by, and I can't even recall some of them, because of that. And I don't see it as a problem that I'm actually starting to prefer stuff I like and stuff I made, or stuff that I produced. See, the reason why I say it's produced is because what a producer does is, like, what's his name? There's a popular producer right now that people reference because he doesn't really he doesn't really play an instrument. All he does is he sits back and he suggests things to the musicians in the making process, and you know people get recognized and they come to him and helps them make an album and stuff like that. That's really all we do. We're basically asking the AI to produce music for us, and it comes back with some stuff, and we either take it or we don't. And so we're auditioning it or having it auditioned, and we're picking the stuff that goes in. So we're really just producers. We're not musicians. We are producers. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop it right here. I've gone on long enough. It's like 100 minutes in, and I want to do something fun today. Not to say this ain't fun, but I want to stop. Oh, there it is. That's what I